Hi, everyone. I just wanted to record a quick uh, mini lecture to help support you. If you feel like your study skills aren't what they could be, or maybe you need some guidance on helping you understand how to study correctly, I put together this slideshow that combines science with the best methods for studying. Some of these things are things that I personally used when I was an undergrad before I knew the words for a lot of these things. Um, and some of them are things I've learned since then, since becoming a teacher. So um, these are neuroscience proven study strategies. So these have scientific support to back them. So the first sort of practice or strategy is retrieval practice. Um, And this is where you practice retrieving the information that you learned. Um, and what this does, it uses your prefrontal cortex and connects it to your hippocampus. So if you don't know, prefrontal cortex is sort of where a lot of your decision making comes into play. And then your hippocampus is where a lot of memories get consolidated and sorted out to be stored for later. Um, so some of the things to do here is to rewrite your notes. Um, Ideally, rewrite them from memory. This is a technique that, as an undergrad, I came up with by myself, and it really worked. Um, Turns out I didn't invent it, but at the time I did. Um, so you can write your notes out from memory, and then that really allows you to see where the gaps are in your knowledge. You can take practice quizzes. This is one of the better uses of AI right now, is to ask AI to make a practice quiz from these chapters in your textbook, and that way you can get questions basically right out of the textbook that you've never seen before. Um, Flashcards, I personally don't like flashcards at all. Um, but what I do like about flashcards is actually making them. I don't recommend using a flashcard app or one of the web pages that has flashcards pre-made for you. I think the act of making the flashcards is one of the more important things, writing those things down. Um, and the other thing that I personally did was explaining concepts out loud. I had one of my best friends in college. He and I took a lot of classes together, and we would sit there and go back and forth teaching each other concepts um, that would be on the next exam. But you don't have to have a person. You can teach a teddy bear. You can teach a goldfish. It doesn't really matter. It's the act of retrieving that information from your brain and producing a product out of it. And that's what all of these things have in common. Um, it's not rereading your notes. It's not putting information into your head. It's practicing taking it out. And that's that prefrontal hippocampal loop that you need to sort of reinforce and build. The next one is spaced repetition. And this is one that I personally didn't do because I didn't know about it. But since learning about it, I really like it. Um, so what this is spacing out your studying of a subject. So after the first day that you sort of read a chapter or watch the lecture video, um, one day later, review your notes. And again, you should be taking notes on all of these things where you physically write notes. So one day after, the next day, review them, just read through them. And then 3 days after that, do it again. Just reread your notes. And then at 1 week from when you initially took those notes, review it again. And it doesn't take a lot of time, 20 minutes, 40 minutes tops. And then at 2 weeks, review them again. And this repetition, remember, we talked about the hippocampus being where memories are sort of filed and stored. This repetition reinforces that filing cabinet and says, okay, this is important. We've now learned about this 4 times. we need to consolidate this and actually store it long term. There's also the 2-3-5 method, which has you studying at 2, 3, 5, and 7 days instead of 2 weeks. But um, your memories consolidate during those breaks between studying. Um, and this repeated exposure increases that sort of consolidation. The other thing that really helps with this is getting a good night's sleep. That's when your brain does a lot of heavy work in that consolidation of memories. The third one is dual coding. This is visual and verbal integration. Um, so rather than just taking notes with words, draw diagrams, create a chart, make an infographic, anything like that, where you're using different aspects of your brain to learn the same material helps a lot. Um, or having a diagram and labeling the diagram. Um, it just strengthens connections between your visual cortex and the language areas of your brain. So the more of this sort of integration of different parts, the more it helps you store them and have pattern recognition. Now, the one thing I will say is this dual coding sort of sounds like learning styles. Maybe you've heard about learning styles like auditory, visual. Um, there's no science to back up that those learning styles are real. Um, but what is scientifically proven is that people prefer one thing over the other. I prefer a physical map. If you're giving me directions, I want you to draw it because then I can bring back that drawing, that visualization a lot easier than words. Um, but I can memorize words. It's just I prefer one way. So learning styles are not science, but we certainly have ways that you know how you learn stuff the best. So use those ways because that's what you like, but try to integrate other parts. The next one is interleaving. And this is another one that I didn't do, but I wish I had known about it. This is where you rotate between 2 to 3 topics in the same sort of study block. Um, Maybe you study biology for 30 minutes. Then you switch to English for 30 minutes. Then you come back to bio. Then maybe you go to math. Um, so this can be for different classes. You could also maybe do 30 minutes of bio lecture and then 30 minutes of bio lab, maybe 30 minutes of a hobby. But it's concentrated sort of focus time where you don't have any distractions, you don't have your phone, you don't have any screens on. At most, you have some background noise, preferably with no words in it. Um, but it's this interleaving is this mixing of topics, and it allows your brain to sort of um, get locked in to one subject, one way of thinking, and then switch to a different way of thinking. And then when you go back, your brain switches back into that original way, and you get used to thinking about things in certain ways. So by switching back and forth, it alleviates boredom, um, and it helps your brain get this repetitive sort of pattern recognition. Okay, so these are the four major things to do. But these four things are not a plan. These are just methods. Um, so now I'm going to go over what can your plan look like? How are you going to use these four things for your needs the best? So before studying, for 10 to 30 minutes, do a little bit of exercise, get your blood flowing. Um, Again, this is biology based study technique. So this actually does help you study. It boosts a chemical called BDNF, which is sometimes called a learning chemical. So even just some light stretching, riding on an elliptical, anything like that, just for 10 minutes um, before you start studying can sort of prime your brain to learn. The next thing is set a small goal, write it down. Um, Setting a small goal has been proven many times to boost dopamine. Um, Basically, your brain gives you a little reward for completing that goal, for finishing a task. Um, and if you're doing that interleaving, you're getting a little dopamine boost every 30 minutes saying, hey, you did a good job, keep going. Another reason. And a good method to use is called Pomodoro. Um, it's Italian for tomato, and it basically goes off the method of one of those kitchen timers that often looks like a tomato. Um, and essentially, all a Pomodoro is it's 25 minutes um, of work, focused study time, lecture time, whatever the case may be, and then take a 5 minute break, walk around, stretch, use the restroom, whatever. And then after that 5 minute break, right back into another 25-minute um, session. And then after that, after two Pomodoros, you can take a longer 15-minute break, um, have a snack, uh, whatever the case may be, and then go back to the Pomodoro again. Um, there are a lot of apps that will automatically set these Pomodoros for you. Some of them will play some background noise to help you focus. Um, but it's just a way to set a timer that keeps you on task. And what these things do is it minimizes cognitive load. Um, it forces you to do one task at a time. Um, Silence the notifications on your phone. Even better, put your phone in a different room. There's lots of studies that show even having your phone in the room with you is a distraction because it buzzes, or you think about something you saw on Instagram that day or TikTok, and you're like, oh, your attention gets momentarily drawn away again and again and again, and that's really bad for learning. Even if it's like subtle and quick, it's that pulling your brain away for that device. So put it in another room if it's a distraction. Um, Use that retrieval that we talked about every session. Quiz yourself. Um, Rewrite your notes. Use one of these 25-minute Pomodoros to do one of these retrieval things. Um, Try dual coding during one of those. If you have bulleted notes, try to do a quick sketch of whatever it might be. Um, And then the Pomodoros are great because they have built-in interleaving. So you do 25 minutes of bio, 25 minutes of bio lab, 25 minutes of English, 25 minutes of bio again. Um, and then after studying, however many Pomodoros you do, um, get good sleep that night, 7 to 9 hours. Again, this is when your brain's going to consolidate the work you put in. It's like going to the gym. You need to rest after that to let your muscles heal. The brain's similar. It needs that time and the time that it needs is sleep to consolidate those memories in your hippocampus. Um, those things work together, and they put this information into long-term memory. Um, so, how to apply this in this biology class? The first thing for lecture, take handwritten notes. I can't stress that enough. Um, it can be on an iPad in one of the note-taking apps. Don't type. Don't type your notes. You can type your notes after you handwrite them, but it's really important that that physical, slow handwriting of notes helps you a lot. Again, it's part of that connection of all these different parts of your physiology. Also, um, when you take your notes, don't write down every word that the lecturer says. take the notes in your words. Make sure they're accurate, not that you're going totally adjacent from what the instructor said, but write them in a way that you can go back and understand your translation of what was said and what was on the slides. You can turn each slide into 1 to 2 quiz questions. Um, as you're taking notes, you can write those questions in the margin, like something confuses you, write it down as a question to go back to later. Um, any major process that you go over, photosynthesis, mitosis, draw it out. Again, it's that different learning styles. In labs, again, take handwritten notes. Um, draw out your lab setups so you can remember them. All of these things help you memorize and remember things. Make handwritten flashcards if there's lots of terminology that's unfamiliar to you. And then for um, exam prep should never be the night before or 2 days before the exam. Exam prep should happen as soon as you start with that very first lecture. Um, these spaced intervals you should be studying along the way. Come back to chapter one again and again and again, because then when the exam comes, you don't have that much to do. Um, you may be able to fill in a few holes, um, mix the topics together as you're studying. So do a little bit of chapter one and a little bit of chapter three, um, right next to each other, mix them up. Um, practice from old exams, old quizzes. Again, this is where AI can be very useful. I give you study guides. You can put those study guides in. The one thing you always have to watch out for with AI is hallucinations. Um, is it giving you accurate information? And if you're studying correctly, you'll be able to catch it when it's wrong. And it's wrong a fair amount, too often, I would say. Um, so using AI is a way that you can quiz yourself. Is this right? Is this question even correct? Um, and it can make practice exams for you that are really very useful. So the bottom line to all of this is if you want your brain to remember something, if you've ever taken an exam and thought, I studied this, I know it's in my brain, I can't get it out, have a plan, set a calendar. If it's a paper calendar, if it's a calendar on your phone, set dedicated time to do these things, and stick to it. If something comes up that you have to miss a study session, reschedule it with yourself. That's part of that goal setting that gives you a dopamine boost when you achieve it. Um, practice taking the information out of your brain, not just putting it in. So writing your notes is part of that, taking the information out of your brain. Space out your studying. Don't try to do it all in one day. Spread it out. Um, see it and say it. Try speaking your answers rather than writing them sometimes. Again, mix it up. Um, mix up your what you're studying. Don't stick with one topic for too long. Your brain sort of gets lulled into a sense of boredom. And finally, sleep is really important. I know that might be the hardest one for some of us. But make a plan. None of this stuff will work if you don't schedule it, have a plan, and stick to it. And never say, I'm not good at a subject. Um, from a lot of experience, what I can say is people often aren't enthusiastic about a subject and they don't want to do it. Um, and enthusiasm, I think, for every subject is the number one indicator for me of a student's success moving forward. Remember, these classes that you're taking, um, they're building you up. These aren't something you have to do. This isn't a chore. This is something you get to do. This is building your future. Um, so make sure that you're thinking about things in a positive way. Remember, you get to do this. Oh man, I get to learn about cells. I get to learn about how food affects me. Um, so have that enthusiasm, have that passion. And if you don't have it, fake it until you get it. Um, you'll remember more, you'll perform better, especially if you have a schedule and you're consistent. So I hope this helps somebody. If you need anything else, please come and see me. Um, I'd be happy to help you make a personalized plan for you.